She was the fairest and the most powerful of all the elves who remained in Middle-earth during the Third Age. To the Fellowship, she appeared as a luminous figure of grace, a white lady whose power maintained a timeless sanctuary within the borders of the Golden Wood. Yet behind that veil of ancient beauty lay a spirit forged in the fires of the First Age, a woman who once stood tall and valiant among the rebelling princes of the Noldor, driven by a yearning to rule a realm of her own will. This was Galadriel's secret ambition, a desire for dominion that began in the starlight of Valinor and nearly culminated in the creation of a dark queen more terrible than Sauron himself. Welcome to Echoes of Middle-earth, where today we are unmasking the Lady of Lothlórien to explore the shadow side of her immortality and the moment she almost claimed the One Ring to remake the world in her own image. To understand why Galadriel almost succumbed to the ring, we must look back to the noontide of Valinor, long before the moon or sun had risen. Galadriel was born into the High House of Finwë, the daughter of Finarfin and the sister of Finrod Felagund. She was said to be the most beautiful of her entire house, with hair that seemed to have caught the radiance of the two trees in a golden mesh. But Galadriel was more than a passive beauty. She was elven-wise and strong, possessing a pride and a self-will that mirrored her uncle, the legendary but doomed Feanor. When Feanor stood before the Noldor and swore his terrible oath to recover the Silmarils, the fire of his words kindled something deep within Galadriel. Though she swore no oath herself, she was eager to be gone from the Blessed Realm, for she dreamed of the wide, unguarded lands of Middle-earth and the power she might wield there. Her journey into exile was not one of submission, but of defiance. She was one of the leaders of the Noldoran rebellion, and when Feanor treacherously burned the white ships of the Teleri, Galadriel was among those who refused to turn back in shame. Instead, she and her kin endured the terror of the Helcaraxë, the grinding ice of the north, a feat of such hardihood and woe that it has few matches in the history of the elves. This crossing tempered her spirit, hardening her resolve to find a place where her will would be law. Upon arriving in Beleriand, she did not immediately found a kingdom. Rather, she went to the hidden kingdom of Doriath to dwell with King Thingol and Queen Melian. It was there, under the tutelage of Melian the Maya, that Galadriel learned great lore and wisdom concerning Middle-earth. Melian, a spirit of the same order as the Valar, perceived the shadow of the curse that lay upon the Noldor, and Galadriel's silence regarding the kinslaying at Alqualande showed an early mastery of secrecy and political caution.
As the First Age ended in the ruin of Beleriand and the overthrow of Morgoth, most of the Noldor returned into the west, seeking the pardon of the Valar. Galadriel alone remained of those who had led the Noldor into exile. Her pride was yet unbent, and she felt that her work in Middle-earth was not yet complete. In the Second Age, she saw the arising of Sauron, then appearing in a fair form as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. While the elven smiths of Eregion were won over by Sauron's cunning, Galadriel, along with Gil-galad and Elrond, doubted him. She perceived that Sauron sought to postpone the weariness of the world by force, a desire that mirrored her own hope to preserve the beauty of the Elder Days. When the three rings were forged in secret, she was entrusted with Nenya, the Ring of Adamant, wrought of mithril and set with a single white stone that flickered like a frosty star.
With Nenya, Galadriel finally achieved her ancient ambition. She created a realm that was an island amid many perils, a sanctuary where the tides of time were slowed. Lothlórien became a dream flower, a place where the trees bore flowers of gold and no evil thing dared to enter. But this power was subordinate to the One Ring. Galadriel knew that if Sauron regained the One, all she had built with Nenya would be laid bare to his malice. Conversely, she knew that if the One were destroyed, the power of the three would fail, and Lothlórien would fade and be forgotten, forcing her at last to diminish and depart. For a being who had spent millennia building a world to her own liking, the prospect of its dissolution was a long defeat that tested the very foundations of her soul. This brings us to the pivotal moment in the Third Age, the arrival of the ring-bearer and Caris Galadon. For many long years, Galadriel had pondered what she might do should the One Ring come within her reach. When Frodo Baggins, moved by her wisdom and fairness, offered her the ring freely, the culmination of all her secret ambitions was suddenly possible. In that instant, she saw the path to a terrifying alternative history. She did not merely see herself as a ruler, but as a goddess of the earth. She declared, "In place of the Dark Lord, you will set up a queen, and I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night." This was the Dark Queen, a being who would be fair as the sea and the sun, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, and stronger than the foundations of the earth. The horror of this vision was that she would be worshipful, but her subjects would love me and despair. Unlike Sauron, who ruled through fear and the mind of metal and wheels, a Dark Queen Galadriel would rule through an overwhelming, suffocating beauty that would command the hearts of all living things, leaving no room for free will or the natural course of life. Her ambition, which began as a desire to preserve and create things fair and wonderful, had been twisted by the ring into a desire for absolute, static perfection under her sole command. She would have become a tyrant of light, a ruler whose very grace would be a spell of command that few could withstand. However, the strength of Galadriel's character was not just in her ambition, but in her capacity for spiritual judgment. Even as she loomed tall beyond measurement, illuminated by the great light of her inner power, she saw the reality of the ring's deceit. She realized that the evil devised by Sauron would work on in her, regardless of her intent to do good. She saw that by claiming the ring, she would not be saving Middle-earth, but merely replacing one Dark Lord with another. In a moment of supreme humility that echoed the first note of the great music, she let her hand fall and the light faded. She announced, "I passed the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel." This test was the final reconciliation of the Lothlórien rebellion. By refusing the ring, she voluntarily renounced the very thing she had left Valinor to seek, a kingdom of her own where her will was law. She chose the loss and the silence over the power of command. This act of sacrifice was her ultimate victory, more significant than any battle she had fought with iron hewn and by steel chained in the Elder Days. It was because of this choice that she was finally permitted to return to the ancient West, passing over the seas of the bent world to find healing and rest in the land of the Valar. The image of Galadriel standing by her mirror is a reminder that in Tolkien's world, power is always a double-edged sword. Her secret ambition was not a simple villainous plot, but a high and noble desire that had become enamored of the darkness through the passage of long, weary centuries. She had seen the fall of Gondolin, the ruin of Nargothrond, and the springless autumn of Gondor. Her Dark Queen persona was the final temptation to stop the decay of the world by force. By letting go, she proved that the only way to truly save a thing is to be willing to lose it. When she finally departed from the Grey Havens at the end of the Third Age, she was robed in glimmering white, appearing like clouds about the moon. She bore the phial of Galadriel in her memory, the light of Arundil's star that she had given to Frodo as a light in dark places when all other lights go out. She went from being a potential source of despair to being the provider of the West's greatest hope. Her story ends not with a crown of silver and gold, but with a white ship vanishing on the horizon, an echo of a race that loved the earth so deeply that their greatest act was to leave it. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of the high and hidden heart of the Lady of Lorien, here on Echoes of Middle-earth.
If you found this journey into Galadriel's trial and the Dark Queen that might have been fascinating, please like and subscribe as we continue to unearth the complex destinies of the inhabitants of Arda. Until the stars shine again on our meeting, may your heart stay as pure as the waters of Nenya and your path be guided by the light that never fades.